We jump in, we welcome you back and hope you've enjoyed what we've broadcast so far. And just maybe a note right at the top of this that if you do have questions, text me. The team will put my mobile number up there, but just give me a text and happy to engage on any questions as we go through. So because some of the thinking here will be different to what you hear in real estate, or certainly to what I was brought up on in real estate. When I started to question it, I thought, I don't think that's all quite right, and then had a look at some different ideas. So today, just going to do a couple of things. Just going to have a little chat about auctions and have a little chat about open homes. So with auction, when I'm talking to a vendor, and I've been talking to clients in the last week, I've suggested with auction, what it's going to do is answer the question that they're asking, which is what's my house worth? Now, I know early in the piece for the New Zealand agents, Australia probably the same, we're looking at the appraisal or the CMA and imagining that will answer it. Now, I'm probably one of the guys out on left field just saying, look, I appreciate you see a lot of houses as an agent, but you don't see them all. And you don't understand what was the motivation of a buyer on a particular property, but you try and draw a line from that to the next one. And the vendor is sort of floating around with some expectation that that's a skill we have. So I don't think it's as accurate or it has the value that people believe. I believe that you're actually going to know what the property is worth, and agents will nod on this, once you've been in the market 10 days. Then you'll understand. Agent will then find out, hey, the market loves the house, or no, they don't. They think it's a dog, they don't like it. And it's not coming in anywhere near what we thought. But if you're sitting in New Zealand, you've got a legal requirement, obviously, to do your CMA, your appraisal, and it starts to answer for the vendor, what would this property potentially be worth? And it's also part of your discussion around a vendor making a decision on who they think the right agent is for their property. But we take it to auction, we get into the market, and within 10 days, we're going to know on that property pretty well where the price is starting to sit or where it would fall. It protects you from putting the wrong price on, and we've discussed this previously, which is if you do price a property, there's one of three positions you could be. One is wrong, price is too high. One is right, price is at the right level. One is wrong, price was too low. You sold it too quick, you left money on the table. So it's coming away from that. Auction, I think, is controlling the pace of how things are done and giving the vendor the opportunity to understand where value sits before that first offer turns up. So if you're not auction and you're going in there with offers and the offers have been rejected and not accepted by the vendor, I think it's just that the vendor's not educated. They don't understand if it's a good offer. And I think it's because the agent hasn't got the confidence to say, that's a really good price. Like, you're nuts if you turn that down. We won't see that again. Because how can you do that if it's not an auction and you're doing it early in the piece? And how many times have you heard in the last 15 months it's been true that your first offer may be your best offer? We've been in a declining market, so that is the reality. The offers haven't got better, they've got worse as they go. We've got a list of clients that have sold for less than the first offer. And that was simply they didn't understand it was a good offer. And secondly, the agent didn't have the confidence to say that was a good offer because they couldn't tell. It just happened too quick. So if I go into auction, and I'll give you two things that I'll just suggest today would be good for auction and a reason for auction. One is data and one is discretion. So what I really like about an auction is we get really good data. We get to see the number that turn out. That tells us something. How many people came along and looked at the property? We can even dial back and have a look at the internet, how many hits. And then you can have a look at your ratio and go, hey, the hits were good or the hits were low. The hits were good and the turnout was low. Okay, that tells us that we got out and got the exposure, but on the drive-by, on the first point in which the buyer got to have a look at it before they came to opens, they decided, nah, not for us. Or they decided, I know that area, not for us. Or they decided, wow, that street, not for us. And I think a lot of times if your open numbers are down, it's going to be that people have done the drive-by beforehand. So again, that gives us good data. Good exposure, captured the market on exposure. Nothing went wrong there. But then the performance was most people were turned away. So we didn't have the normal turnout on a property. Normal turnout across sort of 3-4 weeks, 40 groups. Normal amount of interest in that, a 1 in 10 ratio. 4 groups will like it. So 36 groups will say, hey, no, not quite for us. 4 groups will like it. In reality, if your advertising was perfect, those numbers would change. You might get 15 to 20 groups through, but 15 odd groups do like it. That means that your advertising's pitched exactly what you're delivering and you found the market for it. So that's the data. And also I like the fact that we can ask a very easy question which makes sense to a buyer, and it gets disclosure on where the buyer will be at price-wise at auction. And that helps educate our vendor as we go through. Now, if I think about the vendor education there, by the time we deal at the auction, we've had a lot of price feedback. And if that first offer is at the auction and you've had to wait 21 days, 30 days for it, it isn't arriving too early. Both the agent and the vendor can understand if it's good or bad. And that's all we're after. If it's a bad offer, kick them into touch. If it's a good offer, maybe you don't want to miss it. So that's the data side of it. Discretion is the next one. What I'm talking about with discretion here is the buyer's discretion. So stick with me on this one. And buyer's discretion, I mean, are they going to be subject to finance, subject to a builder's inspection, subject to a lawyer's check? Outside of auction, pretty well the answer is yes. They're going to literally tick those boxes and go, yes. And I think it's discretionary. Now, you still need to do those checks, but at what point in time? So at auction, we can force some of the buyers to clean up their act and do that work prior to presenting an offer. So if they want to do a builder's inspection, yeah, absolutely, get it done. And I do have people chip away or chirp and go, oh, but it costs a lot of money. Yeah, sweet. It's only the short list of the properties they really want that they will do a building inspection on. They're not doing it on everything. And that is a cost of business. That's just the reality. Ain't no way around that unless you want to go into the post-auction pool. Next one is finance. Yeah, get your finance tidied up. I believe that the bidder at auction is borrowing is the same as anybody else's, but they're pre-approved and they're robust with it and they've got the confidence to bid. Agents, this will make sense. How many times have you had a buyer through a property, they tell you they're pre-approved for finance and they still put a finance clause in? Reason being, the system allowed them to do it. It said, and that's not in the vendor's best interest. The system said, yeah, put in whatever clauses you want. And that's why I say it's discretionary. Some people it won't be. I appreciate that. But for a lot of people it is. And when you go to auction, you're forcing a percentage of your buyers to clean up their act and present as cash to the vendor. And the legal checks, well, that's easy. It's fairly well titled. They don't need to check contracts. That's been done by the Law Society. So it really is that lawyer's check. So all of that can happen beforehand. So go to auction and you'll take some of the buyers and make them into a cash position. Go to another method of sale and they'll all load conditions in as they go. And that's why I say it's discretionary. So there we go. That's just the comment around auctions. I did say that I'd talk about opens. Just nice and easy. I'll just give a couple of comments on opens. I think it opens if I'm 40 groups over 4 weeks and 4 groups are interested, 36 aren't. So at the open, I might be wrong, but I don't actually get terribly engaged with the property. They can see it. They can understand it. I give them time to absorb it. I'm just looking for the non-verbal signals. Do they like the property or not? And then I'm trying to engage with them. That's your job as an agent. Engage with them, see how you can help them in the market. If it is this property, they will tell you. So it isn't too hard to work out the buyer. The buyer tells you they are the buyer, that they're interested for it. Fairly well works that way. If they're not interested, you're trying to work out what else you're doing for them. If it is the buyer who's interested in the property, and I still see some agents are talking price inside the house, and I think you contaminate the data that I'm trying to produce for the vendor if you do that. So if we're sitting in the house and you start talking about the feedback, where do you see value? Are you guys interested, or whatever your script is, and they tell you a price, I think everybody within earshot is going to be gravitate towards that price. So that data now is corrupt. So do this. You're in the open, engage with them, show them the benefit, show them that you're a real person, show them that if they're a vendor thinking of selling, you'd be good to work with. They could put up with you for 4 weeks. If they're a buyer, show them that you are knowledgeable and that you would provide a service there. If they're the one on the house, lock them in, obviously, show them nothing else, keep them engaged on that house and help them do their homework. But then in the follow-up call, and I would suggest it's the day of the visit. So if they come in on a Saturday afternoon late, we're calling them back. If they come in, if you guys are only running a Sunday open, if it's Sunday, you're calling them back Sunday. And it's real easy. Hey, thanks very much for coming through. Just saying, do you have further interest? And if it's a yes on your auction, then you ask the price question. Great. Vendor will need to set a reserve on this. They'll need to understand where the market is. If they were selling to you, where are you price-wise? And if you've got good rapport at the open, the feedback you get there is going to be more honest than you want, and more honest than the vendor wants. Because I know the numbers are always different from what the vendor's numbers are, but when it comes in, if you've got the connection from the open and rapport, you're going to get better disclosure there around where they sit. So have that price question independent, out of earshot of anybody else. You repeat that, and then you're starting to produce really good data for your vendor. So hope that's been helpful. If you're sitting in the New Zealand market, there's a turn now. The tide's changed, and you're going back into what will be a strong auction market. The last market, the ones who stayed with auction, had a higher clearance rate and very much shorter days on market with their auction stock. For people coming back in now, you're going to see more buyers. So this is a cleaner way to get all your buyers to arrive at the same point in time and to compete, and the vendor can make a decision without drawing out an offer this week, an offer next week, an offer maybe coming the week after. Very hard to make a decision. So you're going back into auction, so enjoy it. And again, if you have further questions, flick me a text, and I'm happy to engage on that basis also and give you some feedback. There we go. Thank you. Ciao.